How are you, Alberto? Thank you for having me here today.
So, Gonzalo, I think big elephant in the room is the construction industry, meaning that, again, it's probably one of the less innovative industries in the world, very, very traditional. And again, there are some players that are pushing hard to try to innovate as much as possible. Another big topic is also the other big elephant in the room in most of the discussion is sustainability, net zero goals. And so again, how to address all these topics and then how a company, a large company like Cemex is actually approaching all these topics. So I will ask you to, beyond introducing yourself and introducing a bit Cemex for our audience, to explain firstly, which is the approach, so how Cemex is trying to pushing the open innovation chapter internally and externally.
Sure, thank you very much. Well, once again, thank you very much for having me here today. I'm Gonzalo Galindo. I'm a Cemex veteran of almost 25 years, doing all sorts of things for the company, all the way from business development, buying and selling companies for the corporation in the US, Europe, and Asia. Also managing some of our line businesses in the UK and the US. And for the last 7 years, managing the whole innovation process, and most importantly, Cemex Ventures, which is our open innovation arm. Cemex is a heavy building materials company, mostly involved in cement, ready mix, and aggregates, but also we have important assets related to waste management. The cement industry in itself is a big, heavy waste eater somehow. We consume substantially more waste than the one we produce. So we have also some interest in waste management in some places. For us, open innovation and Cemex Ventures is kind of the vehicle to actually attract technologies, business concepts, startups, new innovation that comes from the outside to the company, which actually can help us achieve certain strategic objectives. No? And among them is certainly sustainability, and our net zero credentials is very important. And as such, we end up investing in related matters, sustainability, carbon usage, alternate sources of heat and power like hydrogen or alternative fuels, circular economy. We also look into the future of construction materials, the future of construction processes, how the houses of tomorrow will be built and with what materials, and how those materials should be produced sustainably, and how are they going to be used on site and actually produce sound and better construction matters. And as well, we also look into productivity, not only our productivity, but also our customers' productivity, and that's where we try to influence the disruption or the change of a very traditional industry, as you mentioned, as is construction. And last but not least, we also look into supply chain issues related to the construction world. We as a company, we have tens of thousands of trucks in the street every day, which is a logistical nightmare. But also, if you go anywhere in the world and you talk to any job site manager, and you ask him what is one of the main concerns, is really knowing when and how and in what condition the building materials will arrive into the job site to actually be used. And that goes to a whole change in the way we think about how to order, what to order, when to order materials, but also how to buy them, how to pay for them, and so on. So it's a huge area of opportunity for the construction world, which in turn as well leads to a much more sustainability environment for the construction industry. No?
Yeah. And let's focus the discussion on Cemex Ventures. Cemex Ventures is the open innovation unit of Cemex. Again, what you do is substantially, you do the job of a corporate venture capital, or CVC. So you invest into startup, and on the other hand, you identify startups that might not be a good fit for investment, but are a good fit for working with the company. So technically speaking, it's the venture client. So you do both of them. So let's focus on the first one, the CVC vehicle. How large is Cemex Ventures? Again, it started in 2017, so about 6 years old in your innovation journey. So which is the capital that has been cumulatively deployed, which is the typical amount of money that you invest, which is the typical ticket of investments, which is the role that you have, which is the approach, strategic versus financial. Again, the usual checkup question that we typically go through.
Sure. Well, Cemex Ventures, we actually invest from Cemex's balance sheet. We thought for ages whether we should establish a fund or establish a certain amount to be spent on a year-to-year basis. And after serious consideration, we thought, it doesn't make sense for us to encapsulate the whole activity of corporate venturing to a certain amount of money. Let's assume that we said, okay, you, Gonzalo, will have $50 million to spend. And if I spend already 49.9 and then suddenly find the Holy Grail, that means I won't be able to invest anymore. So it doesn't make any sense for us. So we decided to go case by case. Having said that, we invest in a diverse set of startups and technologies. Some more digital in nature, some more hardware driven, like carbon capture and things like that. No? So all of those have very different dynamics. What if I may say, the main common ground among our investments is that we very rarely give a check for the sake of investing in a company. We actually spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's the future of that startup in that relationship with Cemex. No? And in some cases, for example, in more sustainability-driven issues like carbon capture, carbon usage, hydrogen, we have very clear value proposition for those startups, because usually those startups they come from very bright people, PhDs and technologies which are cutting edge, but at some point they will need a industrial outlet where to escalate those technologies, and that's where we come into play. No? So we rarely give a check just for the giving a check. We usually give a check hand in hand with a collaboration agreement in which we state very clearly how we're gonna grow the technology and develop the technology jointly using the technology they develop and our engineering and R&D capabilities to actually escalate them and make them commercially available. No? And those are processes which can take 3, 5, 7 years. No? On the software side, we try to do the same, but it's a little bit more straightforward. We pilot the things very quickly. We try to come up with use cases which are suitable to us, and then we try to figure out how we can expand the use of those technologies, both in our premises, but also in our customer premises, as an additional value proposition to our customers as well. No? In terms of ticket sizes, that dynamics of the differences in the different things that we invest has a lot to do. When you talk about digital things, in general terms, regardless of the type of technology, we tend to invest in earlier stages, something between Series C and Series A, probably allow us to make some space for a follow-up between Series A's and B's. When we talk about digital things, usual investment, depending on the geography, can go between $500,000 to $1 million. The first ticket, and the follow-ons could go up to about 1.5 to 2. When we talk about more sustainability-driven, hardware-driven things, first investment can be 1.1 to 1.5. The follow-on could be 3 to 5. No? But we invest, give or take, on a yearly basis between $10 and $15 million. But besides that amount, it's the amount of additional investment and expense that we generate in Cemex to actually develop the technologies through the use of our R&D capabilities, our engineering capabilities, additional expenses done at plant levels to actually implement the technologies and so on. So that number can grow actually exponentially depending on the type of technology that we, and that is not computed as part of the Cemex Ventures investment. No, it's a wider number which is out there.
Yeah. So what you are saying, just to try to wrap it up, that substantially the CVC arm is strongly embedded with the venture clients. Substantially, you are working for co-innovating with a bunch of companies. Investment is finalized to enable this collaboration that might take from 3 to 5 to 7 years.
Exactly.
So that's probably is when there are no solution ready to be deployed off the shelf, you a certain way work together to make the solution that are deployment ready for a company like yours.
At least we try, indeed, yes.
You try, yes, obviously, because unfortunately we know that.
Sometimes it doesn't work the way we expected, no. But yeah,
that's the beauty and the characteristic of the venture capital game. Unfortunately, is you bet on 10 horses to get 1 or 2s.
Exactly.
That are the good ones, and the 1 or 2 might be the one that might be saving your company, because again they're bringing substantial exponential. So that is why it's so complicated to understand the logic of venture capital and corporate venture capital in the corporate settings that are structurally designed to be risk adverse. They are designed to that everything should work, and then the approach that we have 10 solutions, maybe 1 or 2 might be the good ones, is something that in the corporate setting is difficult to be even say and just listen to. I don't know if you have the same feeling.
Yes, certainly we do. I mean, at the end of the day, it's venture capital is about making bets, no? And those bets sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. No, what we're trying to do with this collaborative framework is trying to somehow increase the probability of winning, knowing that by doing so we're risking a little bit more than usual. No, it's not just the investment in a promissory note to the startup or investing in the equity and going into the cap table. No, it's really getting involved with them, and we do that because some of the startups that we deal with, they are not necessarily technologies which are relevant only for us. Usually in the sustainability front, those startups can be relevant for the steel industry, for oil and gas, for power generation, and so on. No? And we cannot compete money-wise with some of those industries. Let's face it, they have more money. So if we really want to make sure that our use case is developed and so on, we need to put our hands in actually making sure that they are actually developed. No? And we need to go the extra mile sometimes to make sure that happens. No? Because it's, regardless of the size of the companies, it's as relevant to us as it's relevant to them. No?
Yeah. I think you are, again, one of the latest trends that we are detecting, looking at open innovations, what we call hybridization, meaning that we have some taxonomy of tools, the venture client, corporate venture capital, the venture builder, entrepreneurship, M&A. And at the end, what we are seeing is that this taxonomy actually is a bit blurring each other, because again, some of them are overlapping because there are different uses. And particularly, I see looking at CVC, I see two different positions. There is I would call it the pure CVC play, substantially gigantic funds investing mostly late stage, so substantially the Series C, Series D level, because you want to get some strategic optionalities on some line of diversification, some line of opportunity to enter in the asset market, in disruptive markets. So you want to have something that is large enough to be monitored from inside at a certain point, maybe to bring them in. And this is one trend. And so we see some CVC moving that way. And the CVC are even more and more separate from the corporate mothership. And then we see another play of CVC that is definitely more blurred with the venture client. So substantially, the venture client technically works if the solution is ready to be deployed, but most of the interesting solutions are not ready to deploy. And so the CVC is helping to make them ready to be deployed. That, I believe, is the approach that you guys are in. If I think to someone else that is doing something similar is Iberdrola with Perseo. They told me, yes, we might engage startups to be more earlier stage, because with the investment arm we can afford them to bring to the level that they need to be in order to be used. I don't know if my perspective is correct based on your perspective. What you want?
I guess is correct, but look, I think since we started Cemex Ventures 6-7 years ago, we have tried all sorts of different schemes on how to actually connect open innovation to the company. I used to say to my team, an innovation model that doesn't innovate itself is an innovation model that will die. So we try new things every year. If you ask me what we did at the early days of Cemex Ventures, we were more less venture building type of. We were really investing in trying to disrupt the construction industry, regardless if it was related to us or not. Today we are more into the combination of venture building and corporate venturing, as mentioned. But on top of that, we also try some other schemes to actually try to continue bringing in new things and try to push the envelope of innovation in the construction industry beyond the capabilities we have as a building material suppliers of this industry. For example, we do some venture building as well. Never alone, because we certainly were not entrepreneurs. We actually try to do that in partnership with a couple of partners and venture builders that we trust, and we have been betting them for quite some time, that they bet on those concepts as well with us. And we try new business concepts which we think might revolutionize certain segments of aspects of the construction industry. We try that. We have done some joint venturing for certain technologies that we know that they will be technologies that are already sticking in the construction world, and we know that we don't have the capabilities to execute them, but we know that will affect us eventually. Then we tried some joint venturing that as we tried in a couple of times already. We do also accelerate things especially for an acceleration program, especially for those things which are not necessarily strategic in nature, but we know that they will improve certain aspects of our business or our customer business. So we have an acceleration program which lasts 14 weeks for a startup specifically, that we pilot them jointly with customers or alone, and then we try to become a customer of them. So it's a diverse thing. Certainly, the core of the process is our corporate venture arm, which, as you mentioned, it has a lot of corporate venture client as well. But we try other aspects as well to make sure that it's not only about us getting better, it's actually improving the industry behind us, or jointly.
And what you have learned during this 7 years plus journey, again, if you have to write down your memories and say, what have you learned?
God, that's a good one. That's a good one. Look, I think that again, innovation in itself is irrelevant if you don't find a purpose for it. I think at the beginning of Cemex Ventures, it took us some effort to figure out what was exactly the type of corporate venturing or venture client, or of all these aspects that you mentioned, what type of open innovation arm are we, and what we stand for, no? And that's why today we have the scheme that we have, because we need to, in order to provide purpose to our innovation efforts, we need to connect with our core better, understanding that our core is not necessarily the only thing that we need to disrupt. We need to disrupt the surroundings of our core as well. No? I think that was a key learning. The second one is, I would say, you need partner and partner and partner on a continuous basis. And talk and share ideas and share with as many people as possible. You never know where the right solution will come from. Of course, because of the things we do, we tend to partner with people that are closer to our industry, other venture capital, other industry-related companies, and so on. But you need to branch out and go into other industries and see what are the commonalities and see where you can actually partner into making that innovation happen. For example, we have good partnerships with soft drink companies. And what is that? Yes, because we both have tens of thousands of trucks in the street. We suffer the same issues from the logistical point of view. No? And that's just a very gross example, but it's an example which tells you, I mean, you need to talk with as many people as possible and partner, because on top of that, innovation is not cheap. You need to leverage. No? Yeah. And probably those are a couple of examples in which I would say that those were very important. The other is be thorough about your investments. I mean, take them. I mean, sometimes at the beginning, I didn't have any background on corporate venturing, didn't know a background in venture capital, no? But really spending time analyzing and squeezing the due diligence part of the investment is very important. You may save a lot of time afterwards.
Yeah, that's interesting. Going to some example of collaboration again, looking at the portfolio of your invested companies, the one that actually Cemex is extracting value. Can you pick up a couple of concrete example of collaboration? So I think about High Rock or Synhelion. Again, can you describe a bit more some of them to explain actually the process, also going back in time when you first met them? What was the potential, what you had in mind, what it worked, what it didn't work, and at the end, what is today? Because I believe sometimes we start with an idea and then we ended up in another place.
Well, I think, for example, Synhelion is a good example. In Synhelion, we met them quite some time ago. Synhelion, what they do is a solar technology, which I summarized it properly. It's a solar technology by which they can actually transform CO2 into synthetic fuels for aviation. Why we connected with them? Because we saw the solar heat content. And when we started talking to them, it was not necessarily in the technological development plan to actually use that solar heat for industrial purposes. But after a few discussions with them, jointly with our R&D people, we figure out that there was a play to be done in actually using aspects of their technology to actually produce cement. So we did a collaboration agreement with very basic, with very not only basic, but very clear milestones of what we wanted to achieve. Based on that collaboration agreement, we then figure out how we should be investing on them to make sure that they can actually devote resources to this plan. Because if we were just to be an investor in them, their main purpose of that company was the synthetic fuel, not necessarily the industrial heat. And that's how we started. And we managed to already pass 2 of those milestones. We have actually proved that cement can be produced with solar heat. We actually figure out how this collaboration will evolve with or without the solar heat content, but by doing that, we figure out some other aspects of the cement production process that could be improved with some aspects with Synhelion technology. So we managed already to not only produce the cement, but also we also already have a plan on how we will evolve the technology into something industrial testing and commercial viability. And in order to make sure that that happens, we are expanding our collaboration beyond the collaboration agreement into a potential joint venture in the future to actually commercialize and make that technology available with the different aspects of the technology, not only the solar heat piece, available. No? Like that, we have other very strong collaboration. Hyrock is a good one in which we are helping them to actually escalate the technology, and hopefully we will be installing in the next 18 months or the first industrial commercial hydrogen producing machine with that technology in one of our cement plants. We have other collaborations in carbon capture and usage. We have collaboration in certain logistics companies regarding last mile delivery, in which we, for example, in Mexico, we started identifying issues in our last mile delivery for Mexico, since we sell a lot of cement, not as professional concrete, but a lot in cement bags, in the small retail outlets. The last mile delivery of materials is an important thing. So we started looking into companies on how we can solve those issues. We identified one in Boston, Massachusetts. It's called Parrunner. And then we, through the investment we did with them, we created a plan on how they can come to Mexico to actually help us solve the last mile delivery issues. Today is a heavy supplier of last mile delivery services to Cemex in Mexico, but also we're working with other companies like Amazon, like Mercado Libre, and some other, Walmart, for example, supplying them with last mile delivery services as well. No? So it's not only about us helping us solve a problem, but also trying to make sure that the company grows. And that happened usually as well through not only our money, but also the capacity of leveraging the unfair advantage of having Cemex as your big customer. No?
Yeah. No, I think it's fascinating, particularly the example of Synhelion, I think is fascinating because, again, you perceive that what they were doing might have potential application outside and different for what they were doing to help them to develop. And now this is also helping the way you are redesigning the cement production process with them, and not necessarily with them, and maybe you can also expand. I think that's probably is a very good example to understand why CVC, why you invest into companies, because you have the opportunity to not to be on the driving seat, but you to be in the back seat, but taking a look at the road and helping also to navigate and also identifying some potential opportunities. And that's most of the time is very, very difficult. Again, looking about KPIs. Again, that is so damn complicated. So again, how you measure the activities that you run. And again, if you're measuring the KPI of what you have done with Synhelion, it's very difficult because, again, we make a financial investment, yes, that might be measured through the conventional financial KPIs of any investment, might be good, bad, we will see. But also there is a lot of know-how that you are extracting, a lot of market intelligence.
Exactly.
That is very, very difficult to grasp, measure, and put down in some concrete measurement. But how much is the value of the latter compared to the financial return? So that's the big question. So how is your take here in measuring the value of the activity you're running every day?
Look, I think there's several ways of looking at this. No, every time they ask me whether we measure our investments from the financial or the strategic point of view. I always say strategic, although I know that one day somebody will come to me and tell me, we gave you X amount of money. Show me the money, no? And that day, I hope I have.
This happens frequently.
And that day, I hope I have the right answer, not only in nominal terms, but in actual cash in the bank account. But anyway, but that's I think there's other benefits which are some tangible, some less tangible through the open innovation process, which are important to consider. The Synhelion example is one that we went to see one technology and trying to see whether that technology will work in our cement plants. And in the process, we'll figure out that other aspects of that technology might improve the way we produce cement as well, and might make it more sustainable, more less expensive, and so on. No? So and that's one benefit which is tangible, but there's some other benefits which are intangible in that example. In the process, we involve a lot of people in Cemex, not only the R&D people, but a lot of people, our plants, in our engineering department, which you should remember that we are a heavy building materials company. We produce a commodity which is produced exactly the same everywhere in the world. So we tend to be like horses running in one way. We don't see a side because I need to reach the making these people open their eyes and see other ways of working, other ways of thinking, other ways of processing things has a huge value, which could be even sometimes counterproductive, because then you have a lot of people having opinions in certain things that you don't want. But at the end of the day, the net benefit of having opinions is better than anything else. No? And being exposed to a different way of working, different way of looking into problems, and so on. No? So those are clear benefits that somehow will change the way this company will think and will act into the future. No? And certainly companies will have to act very differently into the future. No? And so that the cultural content of the whole innovation process and the open innovation content in that cultural process change is really relevant. You won't change unless you start looking to things differently and do things differently. If you do the same, you will get the same results. No?
Yeah, I think that is the perfect ending of our conversation. Again, if you continue to do the things in the same way, you continue to do the things in the same way. I think you won't evolve. And unfortunately, there is one thing that we are pretty certain about, that the way you are doing things today won't allow you to feed your P&L tomorrow. And so that is the only certain things that we know. Exactly. And so again, there is a race for survival. Unfortunately, corporates tend to master the operational efficiency and excellence, and sometimes they lose the ability to think what to do next. That would probably be the one that might save their life. So again, you are a lifesaver for them. The problem that most of the companies do have today is to keep these lifesavers alive, because again, as mentioned, at certain point, someone will ask for financial results, and if you're not able at that time to have a good answer, they might kill you because they perceive that your work has not been useful. And that's why it's so important to try also to expose the intangible value that you're producing. And I'm totally agree that it's so valuable, but it's very difficult to measure. And anything cannot be measured typically is something that is difficult to have a lot of attention from the top level. But again, that's a problem that we have, and is also the thing that makes this conversation and this job so fascinating. So thank you so much for sharing your insights today, and keep up with the good work. Definitely we'll touch base again in a while to see what's the problem, some new results, some new discoveries, some new evolution that you guys have been doing your job. Thank you, Gonzalo.
Thank you very much, Alberto. I'm happy to continue discussing with you these topics. It's always fascinating.